So the MCU really put out some top tier content this year. One of the best in my opinion being Hawkeye, which gave Clint Barton some much needed justice after being sidelined for so long in the MCU. Along with introducing some brand new characters to the universe, like future Young Avenger Kate Bishop and Maya Lopez aka Echo. The show really brought out some of its craziest moments in the season finale, including the reintroduction of Wilson Fisk aka the Kingpin to the MCU. But there are still plenty of questions that remain post last week's episode. Questions about the future, and what comes next for all these characters. So without further ado, let's get into it. Fans will be happy to know that Clint Barton will probably continue to show up in the MCU for a while longer. There's no indication that he's going to retire just yet, having just met his new partner Kate Bishop. Plus, with Hawkeye star Jeremy Renner saying that he would love to see the character take on more of a leading role in the Avengers and the MCU as a whole, going on to mention Clint's time as the leader of the West Coast Avengers in the comics, I think it's safe to say that Hawkeye has a bright future in the MCU. As for that watch we saw in episode 1 that's slowly been cropping up again and again in later episodes in the series, well, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. fans, look away. After being revealed to belong to Clint's wife, Laura Barton, she finally gets her precious watch back. And on the back of the watch is the S.H.I.E.L.D. insignia and the number 19 underneath. This is the agent number of Mockingbird in the comics, who has previously made quite an extensive appearance in the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. side of things, even garnering enough popularity to almost get a spin-off called Marvel's Most Wanted, which sadly never got past the pilot. Now with this watch, it's either that the number and mantle of Mockingbird is passed down from person to person in the MCU, in other words making Laura Barton Bobby Morse's predecessor, or Marvel has just confirmed that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is in fact not canon, by having Laura be the one and only Mockingbird. Perhaps it's that her actual name is Bobby Morse, before she left S.H.I.E.L.D. and went off the grid, changing it when she got married to Clint and therefore keeping her and her family hidden. Personally, I'm hoping for the first option because I love me some Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and it'd be such a shame to decanonize such a rich corner of the MCU. So what's next for our second Hawkeye, Kate? Well, alongside the show probably getting a second season sometime in the future, Kate will probably go on to join the MCU's Young Avengers, which they've not so subtly been setting up recently. In fact, we actually have a video about the MCU setting up the Young Avengers that we made last year. If you want to check that out, the link will be in the description below. As for Yelena, we know that she's a contact of Valentina Allegra de Fontaine, who we assume is setting up either a Thunderbolts or Dark Avengers team. From that, I think it's safe to say that she'll be a part of, well, whatever Valentina's got cooking up. As we know, we're going to be getting a spin-off Echo Disney Plus show sometime in the next 2 years, which we can only assume will be continuing Maya's feud with her uncle, Big Willie Fisk.
I would appreciate if you don't call me Willie anymore, that's a little weird.
Now I know what you're thinking. What? Fisk? But we saw him die at the end of the finale. But I'll get to that in a minute. In the comics, Echo has near Taskmaster-like copycat abilities, so it'd be interesting to see if they dive into that at all in her solo series, which could also feature the return of Charlie Cox as Daredevil, after seeing his last appearance in Spider-Man No Way Home. So at the end of the Hawkeye finale, we see Fisk stumbling through an alleyway after his bout with Kate, where he's met by Maya who holds a gun to him, and as the camera rises above the two of them, we hear Fisk say,
"Sometimes family doesn't see eye to eye,"
followed by a gunshot. Now I'm here to put your mind at ease by saying it's highly unlikely he's dead after just being brought back into the MCU. If we look to the comics, he does in fact get shot by Maya as revenge for being responsible for her father's death, this moment being pulled from the Parts of a Whole Daredevil storyline. As a result of this, Fisk didn't die, but instead ended up blind, hence the eye-to-eye line in the show. I'd imagine this will be explored in the Echo show later on, but I must say this was done at a really odd point in Maya's arc. Even still, this would make a very interesting rematch against Daredevil if they're both blind. I can't lie though, I kinda hope they don't go this route, since according to Kingpin actor Vincent D'Onofrio, he's playing the character as if the character from Daredevil is a survivor of the blip, and is now set on getting back his city. The blip weakened his crown, his authority over his kingdom, and now he wants it back. He's in damage control mode. And to me, it would be a really odd choice to handicap him even more when he's on the rise back up to power. Personally, I'd love to see them go the Mayor Fisk route. I think it'd be a really interesting story for them to explore, and it kind of feels like the natural progression for his character. Okay, so that's it for this Hawkeye series wrap up. I hope I've been able to shed some light onto what we could potentially see from these characters and Hawkeye's loose ends in the future. We are so happy to be back making videos and have got lots of exciting new content coming up for you in the new year. But until then, I've been Brandon, and I'll catch you in the next one. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked what you saw here today, then maybe consider subscribing to catch our other content as and when it releases.